So okay guys, let's start. Just let me know that you can see my screen, right? Okay, nice. Let's just like make a short recap about what was happening like last week. And in general, yeah, if you have any questions, so feel free to ask them. If you have some questions about like previous lesson, yeah. So basically, idea that we got, I hope, last week that so we are like trying in this like course to learn a new language which is like Python, and the idea is like to somehow the model real world in our computer, and then like it's like very important because if we can like model some processes, then probably we can like predict some outcomes, and it can give us like some opportunities, for example, in system biology to understand some processes which are like happening in the body, or even like it can be like any process in the life. So for example, probably you saw that there is a stock investments, right? And some people trying to, for example, predict the price of the shares and then like try to make a money on it. So there are like plenty of different ways of how to apply the programming, and we will try to learn from basics because so I know that some of you already had like experience with Python, but this course is like focused for the beginners, and this is like our idea. And we saw that we can like, for example, model some objects, and in this case we are interested in some specific features, and features could be different. And right now we want like to learn some basic built-in data types in Python which give us opportunity to describe different objects from real life. And in case of car, for example, it could be that we are like interested in the color. We can be interested also in the some like logical data type. For example, is car like self-driving or not? Another thing, it's like about number of seats. But you can like try to imagine some other object. For example, like you can like think about genes, right? And in case of genes, it could be like, for example, the expression level, which can be like described, for example, by some integer number or float number. It depends sometimes on the technique. For example, if you're like working with RNA-seq, the default values are integers because it's like a count number of the reads which were like aligned to some specific genome. But after, for example, processing, at some moment you can get like some different measurement or like value which describe the expression, and it can be like a float number. Then you can be interested in, I don't know, the name of the gene, right? It's gonna be like some string, some text, and basically the idea is the same. So, and instead of like self-driving, in case of gene, for example, you can have like some something which like say you, is gene expressed in general in the cell or not, or like high expressed or not. So this is the idea. And we were like looking on some different data types. We were looking on logical data type, and in the end, so I believe we stopped in the moment when we were like looking on the comparison operators. And so in my mind, so when I like, for example, studying some new programming language, or in general something from the basics, some things could be like kind of boring, but you always should try to somehow like kind of encourage yourself and think about it. So for example, comparison operators, yeah, right, we know like how to compare numbers, and it's like very simple for us because we know it like usually from the school. But the idea is that we need to understand that this is like a small part that we will later on use in some different tasks. And for example, right now I show you like some, for example, some bucket with fruits, and I want to ask you like compare them. And in this case, we can like approach it in different ways. And for example, the first way that we want, like for example, compare pineapple with a watermelon, right? And you need like to put is like pineapple greater or equal rather than watermelon. And guys, so it's question for you: what can we like use here to compare, for example, fruits? Some like different ideas that you have.
Maybe size, or is there a composition of different molecules?
Yeah, right. So for example, size, right? It could be like a volume of the object, or yeah, you can be interested in some specific nutritions which are like inside of the object, and then you can compare it. Yeah, and basically, so I had the same idea, but in my case, it's not a volume, for example, but the weight, and we can like compare objects by the weight. Also, you can like, for example, say that I want like to compare objects because like, for example, I like pineapple more than watermelon. Because of that, it like makes me more happier. And this is like just an examples that sometimes it can be like critical. For example, if you want like, if you have like a gene list, right, at some moment you need like to sort it, and the idea is like you need like to somehow map your object to the real numbers, because in real numbers we have this order where we can like compare objects by the some real number. And this is the idea. So let's switch back and let's go over some things that we looked like last time. And basically we stopped here, and I just want to say that we can like combine these operations. I mean, comparison operators we can combine also, but the idea is about like, for example, logical operators, something that I didn't show you last time. So let's open the folder with our code that we like created last time. So I created a dedicated folder where there are like all files. I will store all files there. So right now I have like just one folder, which is like Vic001. So I want like to create another folder. I will call it like in the same way Vic2. So and you can like just try to repeat everything with me. And actually it's like a good practice to try to follow me with my like, I mean, like, try to repeat the same steps that I am doing. And sometimes, usually it's also very helpful, try to kind of make some changes in the code, try to find what are the like limitations of the programming. Can you like, I don't know, try to combine some things, try to break some things, and usually it like helps you to learn new things. So now I will just open it in the Visual Studio Code, because it's like it has like a graphical user interface. I know that I hope that you already had like a course about the Linux system, right, in the beginning, like some small introduction course to the Linux, where you had to get some knowledge about basics about it. And so I hope that you had like, for example, some topic about Vim or Nena, which are like text editors, and you can use them just like in the terminal. But in our case, we will use like graphical user interface, because it's like easier to understand what is happening. And I can like just show you. So let's create a new file. I'll call it like logical operators.py, and I just want like to copy and paste this part again. But or maybe even I don't want to copy everything. I just like want to show you that you can combine a couple operators. It's like very simple. So for example, if you want like to check that there are like 3 arguments, and you want like check that all of them like simultaneously true, you can just like put it as a sequence, and it's gonna work without any problems. So let's just run it, and we get like true. And you can combine it with like or, and, not. And basically, so the order of the execution is the same in the logical algebra. So, and basically, if you don't know the order, you can like take a look in the internet. So basically, the first operator, it's like usually not, then and then or. I mean, and you always can. So for example, if you don't know about orders, for example, I sometimes don't want to think about it, what is the order, you can always like put parentheses, like in brackets, and specify what is the first like part, the second, and so on. So this is about logical operators. And yeah, so just try to follow me. And then we had like a discussion about comparison operators. And for example, here, right, this is comparing the strings letter by letter. And if strings are like the same, then it's going to be true. But sometimes, for example, you want to compare that strings are equal, or I mean, like, you want to compare them by the length. You want like to sort strings by the length. And in this case, you need like slightly rewrite the comparison operator to be able to achieve it. And yeah, so this is just like the order of execution of different operators, and you can see so that the not is like higher than and or is like the least in this like list. Okay, now so we will learn about variables, and this is a first small piece in our like study, which like kind of highlights key and important concepts about programming. So in programming, we always want to reuse our code. So it's like very important because we don't want like to write the same code over and over again, right? And for now, we just know like some basic data types in Python. For example, if I want like to utilize the number, I just need to like explicitly write it in the code. So for example, let's create a new file. I'll call it like variables.py. And if you don't see something, I mean, like if it's like fuzzy and you want like, you can like ask me to zoom in, and I will just like try to make it more visually clear for you. So for example, right now, if I have like some like random number, like let's say that I have like some long number, something like that. And in case if I want like to reuse it, for example, I want like to calculate some sum, I need always like to put it over and over again, this number. And the thing that we're gonna learn now called like variables, and it's like very simple. So usually the illustration that people give, it's like that you can imagine it as a box, and in this box you can like put any object from the Python, and it's gonna be like assigned for the object. So you can think in this way, but it's like slightly wrong for Python, because usually it's not like a box, it's like just as a, so there is some object in the memory of computer, and we just like assign the name for this object. So there is not like there is like some kind of slightly difference. Okay, but let's create it. So I will call it like in a very naive way. So I call my first variable as a x, and now we can assign the object to this variable. So to do it, you just need like to put the name. I put it like x, and then there is a equal sign, and then the object. And it can be like something also different. So for example, we can assign a string. And now what is like great that we can reuse it. So we can like print x, for example. And I don't need like to put this number over and over again. So let's execute. Oops, sorry, it's like our previous file. So right now our file, I mean like my file called like variables.py, and if I execute it, so you can see that I printed the output of the variable. And yeah, so also we can print y, and this is the result. So and then you can like later on in the code, for example, perform some operations like x plus, I don't know, 101. And this is just like a key concept of most variety of the programming languages, that you can like create variables. So very simple. And if you want like to reassign something, you just need like to write x is equal to something new. For example, I want like to put a new number to the x, and it's gonna be 42 in my case. And now I can like print it one more time and check what is the result. So, and you can see so that the x now is 42. And I have like a short kind of illustration what is happening. So we can think that we have like our memory. So let's say that it's like a computer memory, and at some moment we create a object there. So in this case, it's some string, and this string take some part of the memory in the computer. And then what we do, we assign some name to this object. So this is the idea. So after that, in line, we will have this string I mean, like this variable name line will be kind of corresponds. It's gonna correspond to the object, which is like this string. So guys, is it like clear, right? So yeah, it's like very simple. Let's just check what kind of other examples. So yeah, and this is a just example that, for example, we can create a variable which is called like name. You can copy and paste it and check that it works correctly in the script, in your script when you're like running it. So for example, we have like name, and then you can like concatenate strings. You can like do it over and over again. And basically you can think about it as a, for example, in case if you have like a web server, right, you need like to store login, like a account name and also the password. So, and you can do it in this way. So you can like create the variables. It's not like a kind of correct way. It's just like as an example, because on a server you can have like hundreds and hundreds of the different like accounts, and you don't want to like to create a specific variable for the different like account. You usually want to create a list for it and work in this way. So this is an example that you can like just assign different values for two variables and then like perform like some calculation. Here is a way how you can like in one line specify multiple variables. In this case, so for X we will assign user, for Y we will assign 1, and for the Z we will assign true. So let's just like copy and paste it. I will remove all this part and just like execute it. So when you can see that X corresponds to user, Y corresponds to 1, and true corresponds to Z. And here is just like one note about the print function, that you can like put multiple objects to the print function, separate them by the comma symbol, and it's gonna work. So, and by default it works in the way that it will put in the output like one white space between the objects. And in reality you can like slightly change this behavior. So let's do the same way, and you can like specify some specific argument of the function. So how it works, I will put like sep. It's like a, so print function knows what does it mean. Like sep stands for separator, and for example you can put underscore here, and in this case your output gonna be separated by underscores instead of the default value, which is a one white space. And you can like just play with it and put different things here. For example, you can utilize star or something like that, and it works like finely. It's just like as a explanation about what is a default separator between objects when we print them by using the default print function. Yeah, so and there are like some rules about Python variables. I mean like rules, it's like mostly about the naming of the variables. So, and you can like just read it in the on the website. Yeah, basically that you can like utilize this type of symbols, that your variable cannot start with a number. You need like to start with some letter, yeah, or underscore character. And yeah, oh, basically guys, so I forgot you to tell about one important thing in my mind. So right now we are like writing the code, right? And it's like the same as you're like, for example, typing something, or like you know, like when I was like in university, usually I had like to handwrite the lesson in the like in the notebook. And I was like always jealous about people who like, you know, like they had like very nice handwriting. They like, I mean like sometimes you're like just taking notebook of some person, if you for example skip like some lessons, and then you're trying to kind of just copy to your like notebook. And some people had like so nice like handwriting, and I was like always amazed. And basically it works in the same way with programming. During your like study at some moment, I believe you definitely gonna like read the code of other people, and in the same way. So some people can like write very poorly. I mean like it's hard to understand what is happening, and you should like try to, I don't know, like try to encourage yourself to write very nice code. And in Python there is a specific guidelines which you need like to follow to kind of to make a nice looking code, just like visually. And it's called like a PEP8. Let's just open it. So, and basically PEP stands for Python Enhancement Proposals, and PEP8 is a style guide for Python code. And I really kind of suggest all of you to take a look on it about what is a nice way of implementing or defining different things in the Python. And basically, for example, the main thing that I remember is like when you create a variable, usually you want like to put white spaces between equal sign. And in reality, you don't need like to bother yourself a lot, because you can find that there is like a tool which is called like AutoPEP8, and it can be like as a good homework exercise to install AutoPEP8 and then like automatically format your code. So for example, in case if you write something like that, you can just like press some hotkey combination, and it's gonna like automatically make it more beautiful. And this is just like about kind of some off topic, but it's like really important because so since you're like a programmers, you will definitely work with programs which like was written by other people, and you also will gonna share your code. In our course, mostly all the home tasks will be like in the way that you just like submit the task to the system which automatically test it. So it's not gonna take a look and say that, oh, I don't like this code. It's gonna just like execute it, and if the solution is correct, then it says like, okay, code is fine. But in terms of the people communications, it's better to follow some guidelines to make your code more readable. So this was like about PEP8, and you can just Google it and take a look. And basically these rules, there are like some rules about naming variables, which also you should like follow to make your variables more kind of meaningful. For example, in my case, just because I want like to do it fast enough, I put some like random X, Y, Z, and it doesn't mean like anything. But sometimes you want like to specify name more accurate. For example, if it's for example, in the case of the server and you have like account name, then probably you can like even type it as a account name and assign some name here. So, and it's gonna work then after that. So, and then when you read your code again after like 1 week or something like that, because so just like a real case example, sometimes I'm open my code, which I wrote, for example, I don't know, sometimes like even 2 weeks ago, I wrote something and I open it and I don't understand what was happening. And it's like a bad sign. It means that you did something not like very correctly, because you need like to make it more kind of readable, more friendly for other people. So yeah, this is about some guidelines about how to call your variables. And now let's take a look about type conversion. So this is just like visual example, but idea that sometimes we want to convert one object, like one type of the object to another one. So for example, here there is a way how we can convert integer number to float number, because it's like a separate data types in Python, and sometimes we need like to convert them to perform some specific operation. So let's just like copy this part. I will create one more like file. I will call it type conversion.py, and I'll just put this example here. So now let's just take a look. In the beginning, we have like a variable which is called like integer number, and we assigned 5 here. Then we just use print function to print the result to standard output. And here we have conversion to another data type. And in case if we want to convert integer number to the float, we need like to use the float function. It's a built-in function in Python. I just put float, and then inside of the brackets, I specify the object which I want try to convert to the float number. And then in the end, I print the float number. So let's execute this example. And you can see, so in the beginning we have like integer number, we printed it, and then we create a float number, and float number now is like a real float number. We have like a decimal point here. So this is about how you can convert from integer to float. In the same way you can convert from float to int. I will just comment this part. And in this case we have like some float number which is like 3.14. We just print it, and in this case I made it like a slightly more visually appealing. So here we have like a string which is saying that float number is equal, and then I put the value of float number, and here we convert float number to integer. And the idea is that we will just like delete everything which goes after like point, and we will get integer number. And you can see, so in the beginning we had like 3.14, and then we converted it to the integer, and we lost the this tail of the number. And it's not a round, because when we, for example, when we want like round the number, right, we know that if the, for example, if the decimal part is like higher than 0.5, we want to round it to the higher value usually, and it's not gonna work in this way. For that, there are like special functions which gonna take into account what is a decimal part of the number, and will kind of round it to the proper value. Just like to show you what I mean. For example, if I use integer with 3.9, it's not gonna be 4. It's gonna be 3, because we are just like kind of canceling the decimal part of the number. So guys, so far so good. Can you like follow, right? Okay, nice. Yeah, if some questions, I'm always like happy to answer them. At least like try to answer. Okay, this was like about some integer conversion. Also, we can convert string to int or float. Let's copy and paste the new part. So in this case, we have like string 42, and we want to convert it to the integer, and then we want to convert it to the float, and then just like print it as a result. So let's execute it, and you can see that it works like fine, as we expected. I mean, like, for example, I expect this behavior of my script, that if I have string 42, I want to convert it to the 42 number in integer space, in a float space, and then just like print it out. But the main thing here that you can like face from time to time, that if you have for example, some strange line, kind of strange line, just regular line, but there are like no digits inside of the line, inside of the string. And in the case if I try to convert it, I will face some errors here. And you can see that it says that I have like invalid literal for int function with base 10, x, y, z. And I don't know, so I hope that you know about that there are like different systems for numbers, how to represent numbers. There is like binary system, hexadecimal system, and basically, for example, in hexadecimal system, we have like all digits from 0 to 9, but also after that we have like letters which represent numbers A, B, C, D, until like this kind of the letter which corresponds to 15. And sometimes you can change the base inside of the int function to say that I have like a string which is like a representation of the number in hexadecimal system, and because of that your string can has A, B, C as the digits inside of it. But by default int function assume that you have like a number in decimal system. So guys, I will not cover it like very deeply on the course, but if you're just like interested about different numerical systems, I mean like binary, hexadecimal, there is like also like a system with a base of 8, you can take a look on internet and then just like try to play with it. I don't cover it because for our course it's not like very important, because we will usually work with decimal numbers with base 10, so because of that I'm not gonna cover it in this course. Let's just take a look how we can convert integer or float like backwards to string. I'll just copy and paste it. So here we have like integer number 42, then we have like float number 3, 14, 15, and then we can convert it to string. I called it like string int, string float, and this one is like works fine. Yeah, also we print the type of the object, and you can see that after conversion, the type of the object now is like string, but before it was like int and float. Yeah, now like very important part for me, because I usually use it a lot during the writing my code, and it's like about logical data type bool, and there is a like concept about truthy and falsy values. And basically the idea is, if you have like, for example, number 0, integer or float number, or if you have like an empty string, if you try to convert it to the Boolean object, you will get a false. This is a kind of concept. But for all other values, you will get a true. So let's just like print and paste it. And let's execute it. So you can see that integer 0, after conversion to the Boolean data type, will be false. Boolean float number, which is 0 also, gonna be false. And the empty string is false. But all other values gonna be true. And why it's important? Because at some moment, like right now, we will like learn about the controlling the flow of the program. I mean, like if we have like some conditional statements, sometimes we want like to execute part of the code which specific for some condition. And in this case, usually we need like to try if something is like happening. So for example, if you want to check that if your string is empty, you will put if something. And then by default in this condition, there is a conversion to the Boolean data type. And because of that, it's important to remember that if you have like some number which is not 0, it's going to be true, but 0 corresponds to false, and empty objects like empty string, and also we will see some other like data types, they're gonna be converted to the false. So this part about variables and some like data types and conversions that we covered right now. And yeah, guys, just like notice me if you have any questions. Let's switch to the control flow. And here is just an example about the input function. Because right now we didn't have like any input, right? We had like just a script, our program, it's doing something, but we didn't like fetch any information from the user. And if we want like to get some information from the user, we can utilize the input function. And this function allows us to kind of provide some information from the user to the program. And I'll just like show you how it works. Let's copy and paste this part. And here we have like a variable which we call like username. And then here is the input function. So input function is a built-in function, and we just need like to remember it, that there is an input function. For now, we faced with couple built-in functions, which is like print. Now we know that we can like use type conversions. For that we use like bool, str, int, float. And now also we have like input. Oh yeah, also we saw before type function. And here we have like the input, and there is some like prompt inside of the input. And it's gonna like pop up when we execute the program. We will see that it waits something. It waits from us to provide some information. And then after we provided this information, it's gonna be assigned to the username variable, and we can utilize it inside of the program. So I will just, let's create a new file, just like to make it more accurate. So it input example.py, but you can like just put it in one file. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. And now let's execute it. So, and you can see now my program is like printed the enter your name, but it didn't like print me username is equal to something, type of username. Also, it didn't like show me anything. And so right now the program waits from me to provide some input, and I will provide it. So I will put like my name, and then I will press like just the enter button. And after enter, this function assume that I finished the input, and after that it assign the value that I provided to the username, and after that it goes to the next statement, which is like print username, and it prints like username, type of username, and we can see that to username we assigned like a name, and also the type of the object by default is a string, so it's like a text object. Yeah, and here is an example, the same thing, but we don't have like anything inside of the input function. And this is more kind of implicit. So if I execute it, now nothing happens. But in the same way, program waits to get some input. And if I put it, it's gonna work in the same way. And you can just like understand that this string is like just as a prompt for the user to explain that the program waits for the input. Yeah, and here is an example. For example, if you want like to read some integers and then like operate on them. And in this case, by default, we read the input as a string. And as we saw before, we can convert it to the different data types. We can convert it to the integer and then execute this statement. So let's just run it. And for example, I want like to put 101 and 42. And then there is a result 42, 42. Yeah. But in case, for example, if I forgot to put, let's comment this part. And I'll copy and paste this statement. So for example, I forgot to put int in the front of the input function. I will just slightly change it. And now, for example, I want to calculate the sum of two numbers. And let's do it in the same way. So I will just run it, and I put the first number is like 101 and the second one is like 42. And you can see that the result is like not correct in terms of the numbers, because by default we read it as a string, and then for string the plus operator means concatenation, and we just like concatenate two strings. And this is just like a part about that if you want like to work with numbers in proper way, you should like always remember about to proper type conversion in front of your input function. So for example, you can like convert it also to the float in the same way. So let's execute it, and I'll put the same things, and now it works properly in terms of the float numbers. Okay. So, and now let's start talking about conditional statements. So, and basically, as I said, usually our program works in that way that it's like starts from the first line. So in this case, we have like a comment in the beginning. So Python not gonna execute it. It's just like comments for the reader. I mean, like for the programmer who gonna read the program. But then there is a first line, and Python execute this line, then like this one, and then this one. And basically the order of the execution, it's linear. We go like from statement to statement, but sometimes we want like to kind of make a shift. For example, we don't want like to execute some part of the code. And in this case, we can utilize the if statements, or we can like execute some specific things just if condition is met. And in this case, I will try to kind of show you an example which always happening with me in my real life. So let's assume that you have like a phone and someone like texted you, right? And usually how it works in my case, so for example, if there is like some specific person, then I'm like right away read the message, right? But sometimes, for example, there can be like a spam, right? Someone like wrote you a spam and you don't want like to read it. You see that there is like some random number and you don't want to read it. Let's try to kind of model this situation in our program. So I'll create a new file. I'll call it ifelse.py. And let's just print this part. Yeah. And in this case, so we will execute it. But let's just take a look. So in the beginning, we read the message by using the input function. So it says enter your message, and then we need like to enter it. And here we see that if message is not empty, then we want like to print that the message was read. In this case, we don't like kind of filter out spam. We just like if something like was texted to our phone, we will like immediately read it. And then in the end, we have like end of the program. Let's like just execute it, and I will put like a message as a hello. And now you can see that the message was read. And then we have like end of the program. But now let's try to put the empty string here. And we will see that this command is not executed. So to put an empty string, I will just like right away print enter. I will press just enter button. So I pressed it, I didn't put anything, and you can see that the output is slightly different. We don't have the your message was read. And this is the idea that by utilizing the if statement, you can control the flow of your program. And basically the idea is like how the syntax works. So we have like if it's a keyword, so Python knows that this is a kind of conditional statement, and then we have a condition after that. And in the end of condition, we should put column symbol. And to specify the part which is like corresponds to the conditional statement, we utilize the indentation. I just like press tab on my computer. You can also put like white spaces. And the guide, I mean like a style guide, is like to put 4 white spaces. And also your tab should be 4 white spaces. I can control it here. So select indentation, and in my case, you can see that the space is 4. It's like a default value. And then, so for example, I can put more statements here. So it's like second statement inside if. Let's just put it inside if. And now, for example, if I execute it one more time, I'll put hello. You can see that now we have like 2 messages, and we kind of highlighted that they are like specific for condition by using the indentation. Because so I don't know if you worked with some like other languages, usually there are like a lot of brackets. You can like use one type of brackets, another type of brackets. In Python it's very simple. So if you want like to specify the part which is like specific for conditional statement, just need like to put indentation. And visually it's like very nice. I can see that this part is like slightly kind of shifted, and it's like as a something which can happen or cannot. And it depends on the criteria which is specified here. So one more time, I will put just like an empty string, and you can see that both of them are not executed. Yeah, and here is a note, because we saw about the conversion to the bool data type. And as I said, so by default here, Python, if we like don't put like a real Boolean data type, by default Python will try to convert it to the Boolean data type. And in this case, for example, we can just write like if message, and it's gonna be in the same way. So Python just like assume that, not like assume that, it's going to try to convert message to bool message. And we know if the string is empty, it's gonna be false. We saw it like kind of a couple minutes ago. So we can like execute this program again, and I put like some real value which is not empty, and then we execute these strings. But now if I put an empty string, we skipped this part. So this is just like a note that you can like be a little bit lazy. You don't need like to write this like not equal to something. I mean like it depends on the case, but you can just like kind of try to do less work than usual by just like trying to think about something. Okay, now we can like utilize the if else statement. So let's just copy and paste it. And here the example. So we have like a name and also we have a message. And in this case, for example, let's assume that we want to read the message if the name of the person is like Vladimir. So we want like just to read messages from Vladimir, right? And if someone else like wrote the message, we want to skip it. And this is how it works. So if there is a message, some like non-empty message, and if it was written by Vladimir, we will say that we read it. But otherwise, we will say that we ignored it. I mean, in both cases, if it's like an empty string, we are going to skip it. And if it's like it was written by some other person. So let's run it. So when let's put our name. So I want like to put my real name that I wrote it, and also some message. So hello. And you can see that my message was read by the program, and there is the end of the program. But now let's try to, for example, work with the message itself. So my name is still the same, but I wrote like an empty message, and my message was ignored. Or also we can write another name, for example, John, and John also try to say hello to us, to the program, but the message gonna be ignored. So when you can see, if this condition is true, we will execute this part, but otherwise, if the condition is not true, this one, we will execute this part. So when you can like control, it's gonna be like a kind of two-way directional decision. So if something is true, we are going to the first part. If no, we are going to the second one. Yeah, and here's the same examples about that someone is like using different input here. Yeah. And now let's take a look a little bit more complex structure. It's called like if else. Here we have like again the name, the message, and as you can see, so for each else branch, we also use indentation to specify the part which is specific for it. So there is a name, message, and let's now like try to model the situation. So for example, if Vladimir wrote us, we will read the message, and also we will try to kind of model the situation that the person right away trying to typing something back. But in case, for example, if there is a message and Lucy sent us a message, we want to ignore it, because I don't know, maybe Lucy did something like to us, right? And we want to ignore it. And in all other cases, if there's like some other person, we will just read it, but not gonna type right away something back. So let's execute it. And for example, let's just like try different cases. So for example, my name is Vladimir and I print hello. So, and program read the message and right away try like kind of model that there is some typing happening. And also now let's execute it again. And for example, Lucy also wrote us hello, but we ignored it, right? So kind of as a case. And also we can, for example, run it one more time, and let's now put John, and John wrote hello. So and we just read it. And this is how you can control and make a complex logical structure in your program. And in reality, you can like make nested structures, so you can like put inside of the if another if and specify something here. So for example, if message is like hello, you can like print something here. So for example, hello or hi. Let's do it. And for example, I run it again. So we need like to go to this branch. So I'll put, and you can see, so if we put it hello, then there is gonna be print hi. Run it one more time. And for example, I want to say not hi, but I don't know, like good afternoon. And we don't have hi. So it's like about that the structure could be very complex, and you just need like to, usually you need like to think about the structure, about all different outcomes. It's like just as a logic that if something is happening, I want to do that part. If not, I want to do this one. And sometimes there could be like some interesting cases. Yeah, and this is an example of the same thing that I said about the nested structure. In this case, we have like a name, message, and also message type. So the message type should be like audio or text. And basically the idea is that in the beginning we put the name here, and then we put the message, and then the message type. And for example, if the name is Vladimir and the message type is text, then we're gonna read it. But for example, I'm like sitting on the meeting, right? And Vladimir recorded the audio message. I'm gonna ignore it because I cannot like listen it right away. And otherwise, if we put it something not like audio or text, we're gonna say that it's like a known message type. So let's run it, and the name is Vladimir, and message is like hello, and type is text. So, and message was read. Now one more time, so I put like a Vladimir, and the message is like, for example, hello, but the type is audio, and we ignored it. Okay, so this is so that's it for if else. It's like very powerful tool in your like hands. You can utilize it. You can like ignore someone now and or like read the messages from the person. And in reality, so I'm just kidding, of course. But for example, this is how it works, right? For example, in Telegram or in any like text messaging app, when you write the message, and then so it like, look, if I don't like write anything, right, I will not gonna have like this like triple dots or like typing symbol because nothing is happening. But if person starts like typing, then there is a signal to the server that person is like typing, and we see the notification about the person is like writing something. Now I want like to show you like my favorite operator in terms of the conditional statements, which called like if else, and it's like very nice in my mind. So this is the syntax. We put like on the left side the option 1, and on the other side on the right side we put the option B, and in the middle we put like some condition, and this is how it looks like. So if else, something like that. Let's just like take a look on the example. It's gonna be easier to understand what is happening. So we have like two variables, a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20, and now I want to find the maximum value between 10 and 20, and to do it I will use the if else statement. So you can see that the condition is if a is greater than b, and if it's true, we're gonna send back a as a result, like a left part, but otherwise we will send back like a b, and in the end for max value we will assign the real maximum value between two numbers. So let's execute it, and you can see that the max value in the end is like 20, right? We can like play around, so let's put input functions here to make it more like custom. Now I want like to put, for example, two numbers, 10 and 101. So the result is 101 with a dot 0 because we converted to the float. Now I can like put like, for example, minus 10 and minus 50, and now the maximum is like minus 10. So, and it's like the way how you can write it in shorter way, because definitely you can write, so if a is greater than b, then max value is equal to a, or else max value is equal to b, right? So it's like 4 lines, but this is a very nice way how you can make it shorter. But guys, don't be like a fanatic. I mean, like just try to use it if you have like some short statements, not if there are like some huge things are happening. Okay, now let's talk about cycles, loops in the program. And the idea is that sometimes we want like to repeat some actions over and over again, some specific amount of time. And for that in Python we have like two cycles, two loops that we can utilize. The first one is for, a very powerful thing. We will cover just like a simple example of it, how it works, but later on we will cover like more advanced techniques about for for loop. And I will create a new file, so it's like for example.py, and here I have like an example. So to utilize the for cycle, we need like to start with a keyword which called like for, and in this case we will utilize the specific function which is called range. And let's just like deassemble how it works. So here we have like I in range of 3, and then inside of the loop, so in the same way we specified the block of the code which is specific for the loop by using the indentation here, and with the column symbol at the end of our controlling flow statement. Let's just run it. Guys, so what do you think, what's gonna be as an output? Any ideas? Like to make it more interactive, right?
Probably it will be like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, so this is what I would like expect in the same way. So yeah, I would like expect like iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, because I put like range 3, so it's like a range of 3, right? But
doesn't it start with 0?
Yeah, this is true, that in programming, so in a lot of different programming languages, usually indexation, if you want like to index some things, starts from 0. And it's gonna be like iteration 0, 1, 2. But the idea is the same, that we're gonna like repeat this block of the code 3 times. So let's run it, and you can see so that iteration 0, 1, 2. But I don't know, so guys, do you have like a course about R programming language?
Yes, we have just started.
Yeah, so when you will see that in R, it's more kind of human-like, because everything starts from the 1. And sometimes it could be like a little bit confusing, because in Python you have, it's like that indexation starts from 0, there is like from 1, but you will adapt it. I mean, like you will kind of find a way to work in both languages without any problems. Yeah, and basically, so how it works, the range function in reality provide us like a sequence of the numbers, and the numbers is like 0, 1, 2, and I in stands that I will go over these values one by one. So I starts from 0, we assign 0 to I, then I is equal to 1, I equal to 2, and because of that, inside of the print we will print 0, 1, 2, and since range function generated us just 3 elements, we will repeat this piece 3 times. Yeah, and this is an example about the range function, because it's like how it works. In reality, you can specify 3 numbers inside of the range function. You can specify the start position of the range, the stop position of the range, and also step. And the important thing, that stop value is excluded from the range, and you will generate the sequence of the numbers. And this is an example how you can specify different ranges. You can put just like stop value, because by default start is equal to 0 and step by default is equal to 1. And if I put just like one value, it assumes that it's like the same. Let's just put it as a comment. So this is the same to the range of 0, stop, 1. This is same to the range of start, stop, 1. And this is the same, like it's just like, I mean, it's the same to the same. It's like just made for the simplicity that we don't need like to always specify the start position, the step size, but the idea is following one. And here is an example that if we put like just start and stop, then the step size between the elements gonna be 1. And it's just like provide us the sequence of the numbers. Also, if we put just stop, then by default start is equal to 0, and we will generate all numbers until the stop, and stop will not be included in the range. So here are like different examples about how range function works. Let's run it. So in this case, we just put like one number and we will assign this number to the stop position in the sequence. In this case, we specified the beginning of the sequence and the end. And because of that, it's gonna be 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we specified the range from 1 to 2, and we will, in reality, print all odd numbers between 1 and 5, and 5 is excluded. And also you can specify the negative value as a step, and in this way we will go backwards. We start from 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, 0 will be excluded from the range. So, and this is an example that for range 4 we have like 0, 1, 2, 3. For range 2, 6 we have 2, 3, 4, 5. For range 1, 5, 2 we have like 1, 3. So it works in that way. Yeah, and you can also make the structure more complex. You can put a for loop inside of the for loop. Let's execute this example. And in reality, we generated all possible pairs for sets. So we have like the first set is like, in this case, you can see that I started from 1. So our sets are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first one. And the second set is like from 1 to 3. And we generated all possible pairs of 2 sets. So in reality, if you're familiar with the math a little bit, then you know that there is a Cartesian product. So and basically, this is a solution if you need like to generate a Cartesian product of 2 sets. You can also think about it as you created a grid on the 2-dimensional plane of integer numbers. Like, yeah, you kind of went through the nodes of the grid on a 2D plane. So yeah, there are like examples that sometimes you can like resolve the same tasks in different ways. Here is just like a note about that you can utilize the concatenation of string instead of the just separating them by the comma symbol. But in this case, we need like to convert number to the string because otherwise Python doesn't know how to sum the string with a number. We can take a look just as an example. So for example, if I put print this type of bracket +1, it's gonna be an error. Yeah, so we don't know how to concatenate string with a number. And because of that, we need like to convert it to the string to make it happen. This is an example. And this is just an example that the same way, but in this case, you can see that we utilized separator. In this case, we don't need it. Let's just copy and paste it. And we're gonna get the same Cartesian product as a result. So yeah, this is just the same thing, but slightly different statements inside of the print function.
Can I ask a question about this piece of code? Yeah. So you have this print command, yeah, and there is this plus sign, right?
Yep.
Like first there is this quotation mark, right? Then plus, and then plus string. What does this mean, this plus?
So basically, this is a string. We specified just string, right? And we enclosed it by double quotes. And plus, in this case, gonna work as a concatenation. So this is the first string, and then this is a second string, third string, fourth string, and 5. So basically, it's like a...
okay. So first string is this parenthesis sign.
Yeah.
And, okay.
So yeah, it's like we kind of built this this element from the scratch by like just adding the pieces.
Okay. So and this whole thing is this one element of this Cartesian product, right?
Yeah. So basically, how it works: we start from the first loop, and in the beginning, so I can try to kind of mimicry it. So in the beginning, I is equal to 1 because we start from 1, and this is a fixed position now. And now we go through j inside of the I. So, and in the beginning j is equal to 1, and we're gonna put this 1, 1 inside of the brackets, like here. And then we don't change I for now, because we are like dealing with the nested for loop. We will switch to j equal 2, and we will print the second element. Then j is equal to 3, we print this one. And after we went through the range for j, we will kind of drop it, and now we switch to I is equal to 2, and then start again from j equal to 1.
Yeah, and when we think about it in terms of a table, I is usually like horizontal and j vertical, or like,
Yeah,
is
so
there any
so
way
basically
to
in
think about
Python,
it?
at some moment we will see. So when at some moment we are going to work with two-dimensional lists, and basically you can think about it as a two-dimensional table, and the first index usually corresponds to rows. So it's like a kind of as a height of the table. Yeah, and the second is j usually corresponds to the column.
Columns. Okay. Okay. So I rows and j columns.
Yeah, in the same way.
Okay.
So at some moment, I believe like in the second term, because I'm not sure that we will cover it in this term. In the next term, you're gonna work with different applications and different packages in Python. And one very popular one, it's called like NumPy, which stands for numerical Python. And there are like arrays. It's like a very important concept, like because you can specify matrices by arrays. You can specify vectors and then perform different operations on these objects. And in the same way, so there are like different axes. And the first one corresponds to the kind of as a row, then the column.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, but in reality, so for this one, you can like rewrite it by yourself in the way that you will go in the first place you will go through the columns, then through the rows. So it's like just depends on the implementation. Okay, now we gonna look on the while loop, and in my mind the main differences between like while loop and in the for loop, that in while loop usually we don't know exactly in the beginning how many iterations we are going to perform. In for loop, usually we specify range and we right away know how many iterations gonna happen. But in while loop, usually the assumption that sometimes we don't know how many iterations we need to achieve. And because of that, we can utilize while loop. And here is an example. So let's read some input value, and it's gonna be we ask for some value in interval from 0 to 100. Yeah, and then we will utilize this statement. So maybe it's like a little bit complex for the first example, but still. So here we have like a conditional statement inside of the while loop. And while this condition is true, we're gonna execute the body of the while loop. And in this case, we are checking. So if we entered some value which is outside of the interval, we will ask one more time, and until we got the proper value from the interval. Okay, let's execute it. And now it asks about some numbers. So let's put, for example, 90. And you can see, so nothing happened. But now if I run it one more time, let's say that user inputted the wrong value. We expect to get like from 0 to 100, and user put it like 101. Then we are like saying, please enter like one more time, but correct value. And user like, no, I don't want to put correct value. I'm like a tester. I want like try different like things and find the bug in your code. And then the user like put 102, and you're like, no, please do what you was asked for, right? Put like a correct value. And then it's like, okay, let's try like -1. Do you know this joke that if the like testers, the guys who are like entering the bar, and they're like the barman is like asking how many beers do you want, and they're like -1, and then like I don't know, like infinite number, It's like just that usually they're like trying very weird stuff with your programs, which you sometimes even cannot like assume that people gonna try it. And this is just an example that their mind is so shifted that when they're like in real life situations, they also kind of trying to kind of play this game with some like normal situations. So yeah, and in the end, so for example, the person gave up and he's like, okay, 3. So, and we are like, okay, program is finished. This is an example because right away, we didn't know when the user gonna put the correct value, right? I cannot like specify for I in something. But with while it's much easier. I am like, okay, I don't know how many iterations gonna happen, but let's just try to analyze it and perform it as much as we need. Also, there is an example to kind of mimicate the for loop. In this case, we start with the variable and we assign 0, and then while I is less than 10, we will print I and kind of increment the I value by 1. And you can see, so we got the same result as a for loop. So while in terms of the for range could be similar, we can utilize while in the same way. Oh yeah, so there is a note that instead of this statement, you can also utilize plus equal operator and specify the value, and then you're gonna increment the value by this value that you specified on the right side. It's the same as this one, but slightly shorter. So usually there is a recommendation that you should be lazy while you're like programming and try to type less words, less like statements. But also, again, so you should be kind of, you know, like there should be like a balance. Sometimes people trying to put crazy stuff in one line, and then it's very hard to understand what was happening, what is the idea behind the program. And you can utilize the same operator for the multiplication, for the division, and it works correctly. So yeah, let's take a look on this example. That we just like we will print echo and then like the line that was put it as an input. Yeah, and the interesting thing here that it's gonna work until we put like the empty string, because empty string gonna be converted to the Boolean data type, and we know that the empty string converted to Boolean data type is equal to false, and because of that we will break the while loop, but otherwise we will do it until we face the empty string. Also, we can control more precisely the iterations by using the continue and break statements in our program. So let's just print and paste this example. And here we have like that for I in range of 10, if I is divided by 2, I mean like it means that if the I is even number, we will use continue. And when we face continue, we will not execute everything which is like in the rest part of the for body, the body of the for loop. We will go to this statement, and then we will increment I, and then we will see that if I is odd, this statement is not correct, we will not use continue and we will print it out. So you can see that we went through all odd numbers in range of 10. We could do it in the same way by specifying the arguments in the range function, but this is an example of the continue statement. And now the last example for today, it's like about for I in range of 10, and if I is greater than 5, we want to break the loop. And when we faced with the break, we're gonna like finish the loop, the cycle. And here is an example: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's it basically for today. I just like want to show you like one more example, because it's gonna be important in your homework. And yeah, about homework. So I'll publish the link to the homework during this weekend. And the main thing that you will have like a 1 week soft deadline and then 1 more week of the hard deadline. And soft deadline, so if you solve tasks until the solved deadline, you will get the maximum point possible for the task. But if you made it too late, you will get just like a 50% of the task. Or maybe not 50, 75. I will think about it. But the idea is that you need like to solve tasks on time. Yeah. I will publish the link to the Stepik. Stepik, it's like an online platform where I can provide tasks and check the solutions automatically. I don't need like to grab the notes from you like as the papers. You will just print the same code as we do like on the lessons, and then you will submit your solution. Also, I will probably make a small recording about how it works before I send you the link to the homework, and I will explain in more details about how it works and also what I expect from you. I just want like to show you the example that you probably gonna use in the homeworks. So let's create a line and let's use line as the input. And now inside of the while loop, I will check that line is not equal to star. It's like just as a, because you're gonna see it in the homework. And now, for example, I can read one more time input. And this is a kind of key structure for the homework. So let's just like run it. For example, now if I put like different numbers, I will gonna read them over and over again, and then in the end, so for example, I face like a star, and in this case, I will stop the loop. And the idea is that you can like, for example, specify value and say, let's say that value is 0. Now I can increment the value by the float of the line. And in the end, I can print, for example, the sum of the all values that we faced. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then there is a star. And you can see that the result is like 55. And I believe it's correct because there is like some idea how to calculate these sequences. But this is just like an example how to go through the list of the lines and stop at some moment and perform some operation. So this is just like as an example. So guys, that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Yeah, just a small question about the first line. When you print line is equal to input,
Yeah.
Is it like a float value by default?
No, the first one is a string by default, and because of that, inside of the while, inside of the body of the while cycle, I converted it to the float. Because otherwise it's gonna be not 55, but 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, like the sequence. We can even try. Ah, sorry, you mean like why I put 2 times?
No. In the first line, like input, when you just put input and this bracket sign, then by default it's a string.
Yeah. Let's just check it. So, for example, oops, sorry. Yeah, you can see. Okay, let's kind of change it a little bit. And now for, sorry. Yeah, now like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I want like to stop it. And you can see by default it's string, and it's like just concatenate the string. Yeah, and because of that I converted to float, but I don't need like to put it 2 times. Yeah, so it was like a mistake. 1 is enough.
I have a question about our homework.
Okay.
Like, do we have, can we upload our code for several times? Don't we miss some points for that?
Yeah, you don't have any limitations. You can provide infinite number. I mean, like if Stepik have like some limitations, then it's gonna probably say that you're like doing something wrong. But in general, you can like submit as many as you can. But again, guys, so I really like asking you to be honest and try to resolve tasks in the beginning by yourself. If you feel that you're like giving up, that you're like hating this world, this course, everything, and you like feel yourself like very upset, there is a chat in the Discord. And please, the first thing that you can do is like just like to, for example, share your like solution and ask like guys, what I am doing wrong. And then since we have like some people who already had Python course, I hope they will help you. And if they like not responding at all, definitely I will help you in the end. But the idea is that like try to kind of gather you all together, like to make you like as a solid unit, like a friends. I don't know, maybe it's gonna help you. And yes, like to communicate with the people more from your group.